3. We are talking about some two-way tables. Now, this is kind of cool stuff. It's really neat. We get to incorporate our Venn diagrams right here, but it's a little specific about the way we word things. So I want to make sure you pay attention to wording today, because not always in math is wording important, but today specifically, very important. All right? So, data. Let's just look at this example. We have 440 students, and they are all shown on the table. 440 of them. And they were asked essentially two questions. They were asked whether or not they were on the honor roll and whether or not they played a sport. And the results were 115 only on the honor roll. So that's 115 here. There were 45 that only play a sport. And then there were 250 that did both. All right, which leaves, if I'm talking 440, I don't think those three add up to 440. So 115 plus 250 plus 45, that's only 410. So what happened to the other 30 students? The other 30 students are neither on the honor roll or playing sports. So I'm just going to put that 30 somewhere outside of those two ovals, because there are 30 students that are not on the honor roll and do not play sports. So first definition is a relative frequency, is a ratio. Remember, ratio, a number over another. So a ratio of the value of the subtotal to the value of the total. Okay, knowing that, what is the relative frequency of a student that is on the honor roll and plays a sport to all the students that are on the honor roll? Now listen to that. On the honor roll and plays a sport. Okay, that's 250 students to all the students that are on the honor roll. How many students total are on the honor roll? That's all of these students. So we have to add those two up. 115 plus 250 would give us 365. But we always need to, ratios are fractions that need to be reduced. So what goes into 250 and 365? Easy one, I'm thinking 5. So how many times is 50 in here, and how many times is 5 going to 365? 73. Is there any other number I can factor out? Well, 50 is 2 and 5 and 10, and I know none of those go into 73. So there you have it. So it's a ratio of students on the honor roll and play a sport to all students on the honor roll. Okay, there you have it. Now we can take this information that they give us, or that they give us here, or they give us here, and we're going to put it into a two-way table. You're probably thinking, two-way table, what does that mean? Well, if we look over here, there are a two-way table. I want you to take a look at the columns. The columns are playing a sport or not playing a sport, and then the rows, so these are playing a sport, these do not play a sport. Honor roll, not on the honor roll. So the two questions are represented in the columns and the rows. What's up? Is everything okay? Okay, are you okay? I gotta go. Okay, I gotta go. Bye. Sorry about that. Can't pause the machine. So, anyway, as I was saying, the one question was play a sport or not play a sport. Look how both of those go in the row and both of these go in the column. So, in this rectangle right here, in this cell, these are all the kids who play a sport and are on the honor roll. So, you can probably guess that is your 250, the one that's shared by both of them. Now, if I keep going to the right, all the students on the honor roll, but that do not play a sport, all right, well, that would be the 115, the other part, for a grand total of 365. Now, if I go this way, not on the honor roll, how about let's do play a sport? Play a sport and are on the honor roll. We already listed that one was 250. But how many play a sport but are not on the honor roll? So still in the play a sport, but no longer included, that's your 45. Now check this out, not on the honor roll and do not play a sport. That's that 30 that we figured out and that we put on the outside. So then if I play a sport, the total there would be 295. Total here would be 145. And the total of not on the honor roll, is going to be the 45 and the 30. So 75. And then here's the cool part where you can check your work. If these two will add up to 365 plus 75, which gives me 440, you better get 440 when you add those two up. So 295 plus 145, which is also 140. So it's a good way to double check it. Okay, so let's check this out down here on slide number 3. We're going to look at this one. So in this paragraph, they're going to give us all this information. Felipe surveyed students at school. He found that 78 students own a cell phone, and 58 of those students, so 57 of those students own an MP3 player. So 78 own a cell phone, and 57 of those own an MP3 player. So 78 own a cell phone, and 57 of those 78 own an MP3 player. Now there are 13 students who do not own a cell phone but own a MP3 player. So that's where this 13 is. And 9 students do not own either. There you go. So now from that, we're going to use this. Well, remember 57 plus this amount is a total of 58. Well, or 78. So 78 take away 57 is going to give us our number of students who do not own an MP3 player but still own a cell phone, which is 21. Now, no cell phone, 13 plus 9 gives us 22. Let's add these up. This is going to be 70. This is going to be 30. And so that's 100. Is 78 plus 22 also 100? Yes. So check. They both equal 100, and we are good to go. All right. Now, that is one part. Then we are also going to summarize the data in a minute, but let's try another one like this. All right, this other one, we got 150 children at summer camp and 71 are signed up for swimming. There are a total of 62 children that signed up for canoeing, and 28 of them also signed up for swimming. Construct a two-way table. There are 150 children at summer camp. Well, guess what? That is your grand total. 150 students total at summer camp. Now, 71 signed up for swimming. That's all they told us. So, total signing up for swimming, 71. There were a total of 62 that signed up for canoeing, and 28 of them also signed up for swimming. So 28 of these 62 also signed up for swimming. So that makes it pretty simple. Now, 62 total signed up for canoeing, and 28 of them also signed up for swimming. So how many of them still did canoeing but not swimming? We'll take 62 minus 28, and we get 34 right here. All right, well, if 71 is the total here, and 28 of them are canoeing, take 71 minus 28 to get the total for that did swimming but not canoeing, which is 43. Now, 150, if this is 62 plus what gives you 150? So 150 minus 62 gives me 88. And then 150 minus 71 gives me, I believe it's 79, but 150 minus 71 is indeed 79. And then two ways, again, to check here, 88 minus 43 should be 45, and 79 minus 34 should also be 45, and it is, so I know I'm right. Constructing a two-way table. All right, so what do we do with the two-way table after we have it? Well, if you turn your paper over, we're going to interpret what it means. Two-way tables can show us relative frequency for rows or for columns rather than actual values. So by analyzing the relative frequencies, you can determine possible associations. So interpret means to actually write a sentence and talk about it. We are going to use it with a decimal form. Okay, we're going to leave it in a decimal form, but understand that 2 decimal places is really a percentage, right? Let's choose the relative frequency decimal to write about. All right, so first, by row, talk about the item in the row first and then the column. If we're talking about rows, you want to mention the fact that you're in the row first. And then specifically, what about that row by column? If you're talking about the column, then talk about the column first. All right, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you what it means. Okay, we're going to write 2 sentences, one for the rows and one for the columns. So to find the relative frequencies, by row, write the ratio of each value to the total in that row. So I'm talking about rows. These are rows. This is the total. So in this one, it's 57 over 78. As a decimal, 57 divided by 78 gives me 0.73 approximately. And then in the second row, I've got 13 over 22. So when I divide that, I get 0.59. Then let's do the other one. So 21 divided by 78. Which is 0.27. And then 9 divided by 22, which gives me 0.41. All right, now, if I'm talking about rows, I'm going to mention the fact that this row is all the students who own a cell phone. Of all the students, 78 of them own a cell phone. What can you tell me about the students who own a cell phone? Well, I can tell you that 73%, or most, because 73 over 27, most of the students who own a cell phone also own an MP3 player. And I'm actually going to give you a percentage here. It's 73%. Because that's majority. Now, what can you tell me? That's a half of it. The second row are all the students who don't own a cell phone. Now, this one is still a majority, but not quite as defined, but it's still 59 to 41, and really 0.59 and 0.41 is 59% and 41%. So 59%, most of the kids who don't own a cell phone, see how I'm saying the row first? Most of the kids who don't own a cell phone still own an MP3 player. And just to show you I mean business, I'm going to say 59%. Now, it's not really big majority, like the 73% was pretty big. Okay, so that's by row. All right, by column, now I'm going to take the column total. So in this column, my total is 70. So 57 over 70, which is, as a decimal, 0.81. So definitely going to be the majority there, and 13 over 70. Which should be, 0.19. And then over here, 21 over 30 and 9 over 30, because that's my total. 21 over 30 gives me 70% and 30%. So what can you tell me about this column? In this column, all of these students, 70 of them, all of them own an MP3 player. But what can you tell me about most of the students who own an MP3 player? Well, most of the students who own an MP3 player, guess what? 81% also own a cell phone. Most students who own an MP3 also own a cell phone. Again, I'm going to give you 81%. That's a pretty big majority. Now, how about the students who do not own an MP3 player? Guess what? Most of those students, 70%, still own a cell phone. So most students who do not own an MP3 still own a cell phone. 70%. So not always is one related, you know, it's not always going to be the same relationship. So I can tell you by this, a lot of kids own MP3 players and cell phones. All right, relative frequency isn't necessarily a set and defined thing, but it is going to tell you how they're related to each subtotal. All right. Oh no, I did both of those all in one. Sorry guys. So you can see here, this one was supposed to be by row, and then down here was supposed to be by column. So this is rows and this is columns, which should be on the next, it should be on the next one. So sorry about that. Okay, let's do this last problem here and see what now this last problem, not only did they gave us their Venn diagram over here, and then they are going to let us set up our two-way table, but they didn't even label it. So now what did we ask them? We said a pet store conducted a survey on types of pets owned. Some own a cat, some own a dog, and some own both, and some own neither. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to say own cat, do not own cat, own dog, and do not own dog. So a yes to a dog, a no to a dog, a yes to a cat, a no to a cat. Okay, so right here, owning cats, that's all of these students right in here, people, sorry. All of those people right in here. Of those people who own cats, 78 do not own a dog, but 45 do, because they own both a cat and a dog. All right, 78 do not own a dog, 45 own a cat and a dog. So take a look at this. How about the ones that own a dog but do not own a cat? My kind of people, just kidding, 125. And then the people who don't own either, that's this outside one, that's 52. Okay, so our totals would be, adding them up by the row, all of the people who own dogs would be 170. This one would be 130, I think. Just double check my math here. 52, yep, 130 for a total of 300. So that's, hopefully that works for both ways. 45 plus 78 is 45 plus 78, just making sure, 123. And 125 plus 52 give me 177, and hopefully 177 plus 123, yes, check. They do both give me 300, so I know I'm right. So I got my table. Now we're going to do relative frequencies by columns. These are columns. Okay, so our totals right here are the ones we're going to use. So 45 over 123. That gives me 0.365, so I'm just going to make it 0.37. And then 78 divided by 123 gives me 0.63. And do not own a cat? Well, that's 125 over 177, which is 0.71. And then 52 over 177, which is hopefully 0.29, and it is. So we definitely have majorities here. So now remember, if I'm going by column, the first thing I'm going to mention is this column is all of the people who own cats. Now tell me a sentence. What do we know about the majority? 63%, the majority of people who own cats. Most people who own cats do not own a dog. Comma, 63%. Now what about the people who don't own a cat? The majority of people who don't own a cat own a dog. (71%). So notice, most people who own cats, most people who do not own cats. See how my reference to the column is first? Most people who own cats do not own a dog. Most people who do not own cats own dogs. That isn't always going to be the case. Like one isn't going to be yes and one isn't going to be no, but in this case it was. This is a hard topic, so I'm sure we'll be discussing this more as we get going. So if you have any questions, come and talk to me. Good luck with your worksheet.